Welcome. You're watching Support Life, a program focusing on current social issues from a life-affirming perspective. And today we're speaking with Geraldine Lee. She's from the Call of Guadalupe theatre group. Thanks for coming in, Geraldine.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Friends of the Call of Guadalupe theatre group. Call of Guadalupe, what's that part mean?
It was we named it Call of Guadalupe because that was our first musical we did. And it was a musical that promoted the culture of life and hope. And its roots were my cousin. She started writing the musical and my dad continued. And it was the story of Our Lady of Guadalupe. She appeared to Juan Diego. Because during those times they used to sacrifice human beings to the gods, and especially teenagers and young people. And they, up to 20,000 a day, they used to put them on the altars and sacrifice them. And Our Lady of Guadalupe appeared to Juan Diego and asked him to build a church in order to pray that these sacrifices would stop. And then there is like I suppose it goes into a modern day couple who were threatened by abortion because the wife, she didn't want to have the abortion, but her husband wanted her because of his fame and wanting to, go on business, and his boss didn't want her to be pregnant, didn't want this guy's wife to be pregnant. And because of that, there's a parallel to today's society and the past that, the families sometimes, for the sake of education and money and all this, have terminations.
Yes,
yeah.
They sacrifice the young. That's the comparison.
Yeah,
yes.
and I suppose this musical is not to condemn people, but to raise that awareness and to bring the message of God's love and God's power, that if people could rely on Him and rely on the community or the people around them, they would have that strength to keep their baby, and such that also, rather than depend on the gods of fame, fortune, and fear of the gods, Aztec times, they would still be okay or blessed.
Now, there's a painting of Mother Mary of Guadalupe, isn't there?
That's right.
It's got, is it embryo or something on the?
Yes.
How did that come about?
Well, in Our Lady of Guadalupe is a image of, it's a real presence of Mary, depending on what you believe in carrying the baby Jesus. So in Mexican times, they used to have a black ribbon around the waist, and that would say that they're pregnant.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually went to Mexico only last year, and it was a very spiritual experience, just seeing the image, because this image has been more than 500 and something years old, and it hasn't hardly deteriorated, and it has actually the warmth of a human body, and it's been tested, and it's a miracle.
So it's a miraculous sight.
Yes,
as well.
Yes, and a miraculous image, and it's it's in a church in Mexico. Yeah.
Well, it seems quite appropriate that you would include that in the name of your theatre group then.
Yes.
So this theatre group, when did it come into being?
In 2004 is when we had our first meeting, but we actually put on our first musical in 2005. And we had 4,000 people arrive to see the show, and we found that people in our theatre had some mental illness, some disability, some had alcohol, drug problems, and our aim of our musical is to include everyone, and to say that everyone is valuable and inherently valuable. So it's not because of how useful they are, but more just as they are. And I suppose we have people with disabilities in our theatre group, and we also attract semi-professionals and even some professionals, because we offer them free acting and singing classes. We, myself and my dad and a few others are semi-professional, or actually John is a professional drama lecturer, so we offer them this opportunity to develop the gifts, and we train them up too.
Yes, John, that's John Lee, your father.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, John, how long, he was mixed up in drama for a very long time, hasn't he?
Yes, since he was young at university days till now, yeah.
And so the theatre group clearly has something more about it than just being a theatre group. What's that underlying philosophy?
I suppose it's building a culture of life and hope. We build community, so people can come in and out of theatre as they wish, and we make them feel welcome, and we encourage them to develop their gifts and to have a go with different activities. And we, because our theatre group believes in that the elderly are valuable, and the depressed and the mentally ill, and all young and old, babies who are not wanted as valuable. So we do things like we have Christmas carols to the elderly, and I go to youth groups and talk about relationships and self-esteem to young people.
Yes.
And also our theatre group, we have a lot of social and community things, and we go to festivals, and a lot of our volunteers, they come and visit the office, and we have meals together, and they do some volunteer work. Some of them are unemployed or looking for work, so it's a great way for them to develop their gifts.
Yes, yes. So it's a community group it grows into. Sounds like a community group.
Yes, and I suppose we are in a society which tests people for economic viability or how useful you are. But our theatre group is not saying that they're valuable just as they are.
I'll tell you something that's useful, but it cuts across us right now. We're out of time. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Support Life, and today we're speaking with Geraldine Lee from the Call of Guadalupe Theatre Group. Geraldine, we were talking, this is more than a theatre group. You've really got woven into that, a caring, supporting framework. What are the aspects that spread out into your group and hold them together?
I suppose we see them like a community and a family, and if anyone in the theatre group is going through a challenging time, we do offer support where we can.
Yes.
And I suppose because I have a social work background, I can help them with knowing where the services are, and I support them where I can. And so at different times we've had people need to stay over at someone's place in the community, or some in financial hardship. We connect a bit with I Choose Life, and we get that support from them. So we have sponsors that help us to support some of our cast members.
Right.
Yeah, okay. And I suppose what I remember very clearly is someone came to us in our theatre group who initially I thought, he's a bit of a challenge because he was asking for money quite often, and sometimes he would even beg to the other cast members, and I was like thinking, how do I handle this? And so I encouraged him and tried to support him where I could, and got him involved with doing some volunteer work, and sometimes would pay him a little bit, just like a little donation to him. And we found him at a stage where he's actually contributing freely, and not only that, he from a very small role he initially had, now has secondary roles, and he's actually thinking of like doing a diploma of welfare and wanting to help others, and he's actually helping other people in our theatre group, from someone who was like finding to how much he could get out of it. Now he's sort of giving to the others. So it's and we see a lot of miracles like that.
Yeah, that is a miracle indeed. And what do you think is apart from God, of course, but what is the essential thing behind that? As far as that young individual is concerned, what do you think it is which gave him that awareness and capacity to change?
Yeah, I suppose it's from my journey of seeing them. I think I think drama has a great way of healing, because you get to practice different roles, and you so for him, he might have played a businessman one day, and then a street person, and then a rebel. So you do get opportunities to try it. And we also run drama workshops, and having sort of a welfare background, I sometimes try to get people to reenact a situation that was initially traumatizing, but then find another person who we would support them. So it's you reenact something from the past.
Right.
And I think it's also their sense of belonging to a group, coming every week, and that we miss them when they're not there. So I'll give them a call or ask them to drop by. So I sort of, we're with them for at least through one show. It's about 8 months of rehearsals. And if they're missing, we'll give them a call and care for them.
Right.
And help them if they need a little bit of finances. We try to help them.
Yes, that's very interesting. I think your point about drama is a key, I suspect, because part of the problem sometimes with people like that is the role that they play for their life is unsatisfactory, unfulfilling, painful. If they get the chance to play other roles, they realise there's something outside of themselves to be. That's powerful. So in the time, I think you said you started with the Call of Guadalupe was that your first play? What have been the others? You've done a series of them since.
Yes,
then.
we've had Saul, Paul, about the conversion of Saul to Paul. We've had Saint Francis of Assisi, called Man of Assisi, and we have had Amazing Augustine, which is the life of Saint Augustine.
Oh, they're big ones.
Yeah, and it's not only the roles they act on the stage, but it's also the different volunteer, because you can help backstage, front of house, you can do the finances. So in musical theatre, there's an opportunity to try out all types of job situations, and quite a few of them also have had work through having work experience in our theatre group.
Right. So it really is growing into something which is quite not profitable, worthwhile is the word I'm looking for. Worthwhile for an individual who is feeling lost and unfocused. They move into the theatre group, and it's a really caring, supportive, constructive growth place.
Yeah, and I think also the people who are not going through challenging things get blessed themselves. That we had a guy who is a doctor who acted one of the main roles, and he acted next to someone who was mentally ill and was homeless at different stages, and he said he felt honored to suddenly see one of his potential clients act with him in a big role, and he said he really was very inspired by the whole experience.
Which goes back to the topics of each of them, as you mentioned, Augustine and Paul and Francis, St. Francis of Assisi. They are big heart roles, aren't they? Big. So your father writes those scripts from ground up, does he?
I suppose the story is already in the, he will look them up historically and then write. But he does take a bit of license to stretch it a bit. We call it artistic license.
That's right. Yes, to drive home the key.
That's right. He always likes to put a bit of romance, a bit of drama, and because he has won a few awards in writing.
Yes. It certainly lends itself to that. And what's his basic philosophy in writing?
I suppose creating drama, and he loves the message of Christ about God's love and conversion.
That's a good point for us to finish because we're out of time. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Support Life, and we're speaking with Geraldine Lee from the Call of Guadalupe Theatre Group. We were discussing all the plays you've put on. Now there's another one coming up in September, and it's also been basically written by John Lee. What's the story behind that one?
Well, it's just a coincidence, but this year, in the World Youth Day, they're going to Poland, and this musical is about John Paul II, who's a Polish pope, who's become a saint now. And my dad wrote this about 3 years ago, and the composer is Peter Foster, and Peter Foster writes beautiful music, and John's written a very engaging script. And we currently are planning the show, and it's going to be at September the 20th. And we're doing auditions, and how we try to get new people to join us, we offer free acting and singing workshops so they can experience the theatre group, and we advertise it, in churches and around Melbourne.
So what's the main thrust of the John Paul message? Is he working on some of his writings, or
it's mainly on the storyline. However, I suppose I have a great love for John Paul II because I do go to speak at schools and John Paul II was bringing a message of promoting the culture of life and hope, which is very much our theatre group's sort of mission, and he also promotes the theology of the body, which is Christian Catholic sexuality, giving helping couples to really realize that God's at that center of their relationship and how to live a good marriage.
Is that the main thrust of the play?
The message of theology and body, I think, it's not the main thrust of the play, but it's more the story. And so we are having a play reading coming up very soon, and I suppose that's where people will get to know. And we do have a website so people can read more about the story.
Right. And so, this might be an obscure question, but is there any sort of imprimatur on this? Does it pass through any Catholic agencies? Or anything?
Well, we our theatre group has in our first musical we've been endorsed by 2 bishops, Christopher Prowse and Peter Elliott. So they've been to our shows. I suppose this musical they haven't heard it yet. I mean, they know the story, but generally all the bishops have been happy with all the musicals we've done, and so I suppose when my dad, as I said, doesn't fit all the historical facts in, but it's a story that really portrays John Paul II.
Has he made any addition to it to account for the sanctification of John Paul II? I'm sort of, I suppose, I'm part of, I suppose part of the musical says about Santo Subito, about being a saint. So because I'm more the pastoral care side of the theatre group, I'm not into the detail as much of the storyline of the musical. However, we're probably at the stage where we still are going to read the script fairly soon, and then we'll have greater knowledge of the script line. That'll start to unfold.
Yes.
But you'd already know some of the parts that you'll need to fill.
Yes. So of course there are a lot of males in the musical, so we're looking particularly for more males. And we've got quite a few females, which is wonderful, and we've got some people with disabilities in our theatre group. And we're very excited because we I think about September the 20th the show will be on. And where we get support is we do fundraisers too. So we recently had a wine and cheese night. So we're kind of quite a lot of us in our theatre group are involved in a few different groups.
Yeah.
So I support singles, and so we do fundraisers through the singles ministry, and the singles like the fact that the money, when we make profits, go to charity, which is enough for our theatre group. And our theatre group also, besides supporting people with mental illness and disabilities where we can, we also help with charities like overseas to Vanuatu. We help them. We collect things, and sometimes we do fundraising events.
And the theatre group obviously has a committee of management of some sort. What's that look like?
Yeah, there's about 10 of us, and we try to get it representative of all the people in the theatre.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we do an AGM, and people get nominated. And because our constant group are people who feel like the family, we do have a variety of people in our theatre group who are in our committee. We have about 10 or 12. And it's really good because then they feel like they own it, because they can influence the future of the group, and they can nominate the leaders. So we are incorporated, and if people make donations, it's tax deductible.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Good.
and we also put our events on in sometimes council, and we do try to go for grants, and so especially because we're helping the community.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and people also have managed to get jobs through us, because I will give them resumes and all this, because I've got a social work background, and we've had students, social work students, have placements with me with the work I do.
Good.
Yeah.
Good luck with your new play.
Thank you very much.
You've been watching Support Life. We'll be back next week. Thanks for watching.